Well, hello. Good morning.
Good
We,
morning.
we are here to do some nurtured heart chatting. And whoever's watching this, we're glad you're here. We're glad you found us. And I hope this is meaningful to you on some level.
Absolutely. It's always so nice to have someone to talk to that understands the strange things that I am thinking and saying on most days.
I actually went to a workshop on Sunday night about temperament therapy, I think it's called. Definitely the word temperament is in there. And they just basically, I've seen this done in different ways, but it's basically where they categorize people into these four categories of how you think and how you decision make, and that like kind of defines your temperament, because nurture has so much to do with it also, but your temperament of like how you naturally learn and how you naturally operate in the world, and what you're naturally good at. And yeah, it's like, I'm like, oh, that's why like those types of people are so easy for me to read. And it's like every temperament thinks like everybody gets it. Like anybody who doesn't get this is like, why don't they get it? Well, they have a different temperament than you. Oh,
So funny.
you know.
Yeah, the perspectives is I'm hearing perspectives in that from what I've been thinking about, and just it's crazy how again it's almost like we were just talking about the camera on Zoom, but it's almost like again what you focus your attention on, and then everything that isn't in your attention blurs. Um, and you can only focus on what you can focus on. So then it's this never ending game of like juggling your focus. If I focus on the big picture, I can't see the details as much. If I see the focus on the details, I can't see. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that focus is. Like if you can't focus on everything, so wherever you put your focus on is going to put other things in not focus. And so, anyways, that's the metaphor I was thinking about. Um, I know when we talked last week, I was thinking about my son because he had been here for winter break, and then he just went back to school for his last semester, hopefully, well, last semester of undergraduate. And it was time flying, and it was this crazy, like I was a sobby little sappy mess before I even got the car home from the airport. Like I missed him so much, but then I was so happy he was gone, because having a 21-year-old up in your space and sleeping till noon, or the computer and the way they talk to their friends and like all of it. And again, my son's very mature, he's very respectful, he's in so many ways much better than I was at his age, and yet there was this big sigh of relief, and at the same time this like pain and worry. So anyways, that's what I'm thinking about perspective, like what I'm choosing to focus on. And then that was leading me to just the reality of being a parent, right? You want to advise them, you want to save them from mistakes and pain, you want to help them out of challenging situations, but then you can't, because they have to live their own life, they have to go through their own struggles. When I was teaching, we told a story to the students about basically that life was like a stream that you were rowing, and you had to go upstream, and your goal could be like what's at the top of the stream, and kind of like family and life and the isms and schisms and things would be like whatever is at the end of the stream, on the other end, the downward end. And we're rowing, because if you're not rowing actively towards what you want or away from what you don't want, you often just end up in what you don't want. But anyways, the message was always like, especially with some of the kids that are really struggling, like, do you want to get in their boat and like row for them? Or they were like, well, what about if I could get a power boat, or I could do different things, or I could jump in someone else's boat and they could get me upstream. And then it was a while. I'm sorry, this is a long story, but it's almost over. But it took a while, but the kids would start to realize at some point, like, if you get all the way upstream and you haven't been rowing yourself, you haven't developed the muscles and the skills and maybe the calluses on your hands or whatever you will need in this metaphor to stay. And so it's actually very dangerous when you don't do the work yourself to get where you're trying to go. So I was thinking about that metaphor. I don't know why that just kind of like popped into my
I
head.
I need to say this. This is so crazy. last night, and I'm going to give her a shout out. Her name is Nomi Winner. Look her up in Phoenix, Arizona. I just gave her a ride home from an event we were both at. And she was telling me about what she does. And I wish I knew the name of the therapy, but she works with babies, specifically babies with head injuries, but,
Mm.
and brain damage, but like, but it's for all babies. And she does it with all, she has a bunch of kids, and the last few of her kids, she did it with them. It's this whole idea of like, before they can walk, right? Like while they're developing, while they're crawling, it's the most important time to not put them into any position that they haven't learned, they haven't mastered themselves, so that they can master it themselves, because those connections in the brain at that level of development will affect their forever brain. Like, I mean, we know neuroplasticity. I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm sure even she would say that there's, healing later on. But she was telling me with my baby how it's so important that we don't like hold her by her hands and like guide her to walk, or like help her stand, because
Right.
she needs to like experience the like getting up and standing and make those connections in her head, so that she has the balance and she has the coordination. And even so, she said like kids that are predisposed to ADHD or autism, which is like, that's me and my kids. We like, especially like our brains won't fill in the gaps later
Right.
naturally. And so that
Wow.
time when they're crawling is like the most important time. I wish I had the name for the therapy, but anyway, I thought that was so, it just, certain things resonate, right? It's like, that makes sense, right? That's the same thing I talk about in other areas of parenting,
Yep.
just with development, like physical development for a baby. And that was really helpful that she told me that. But that's right on with what you're saying of like,
I
it's
love
not,
hearing that.
it's like, I was telling my husband, I was giving her something she wanted. She was like, and I like brought it to her. And my husband's like, let her get it herself. Like, what do you, and I was like, come on, she's a baby. It's okay to spoil her. Like, I want her to be spoiled. She's like the sweetest little thing. And he's like, she's just gonna sit there. She's not gonna learn how to get it herself. But it's
Yep.
like, I just want to like run at every move mount. She's so precious. I just want to, but I'm not helping her. It's not love.
It's so hard now. Now that my children are 21 and 23, and I don't have these crazy little 14 to 18-year olds, high school students in my life on a everyday basis, it's hard to look back. I don't know how much of it is like justification and rationalization, or how much of it is lived experience and wisdom. But it's like, it's just all things in moderation, I guess. Like, you definitely want to not overdo things, like bring her things and help her get everything, because she may well just sit there and not know how to do anything on her own. But at the same time, you need her to feel loved and supported, and like she has this amazing tribe around her, which she also does. So, I think all of these rules are interesting, but they're not a, total all or nothing, like you must do it this way every way. But then obviously you don't want to duplicate or do things that are, countering other things you're doing. That can be frustrating too. So I just think it's, again, to me, it's almost the attention thing again. It's just what you put your attention on. And even just thinking about the growth of your baby is like a totally different paradigm, than just thinking about trying to make it through the day. I'm going to stick the kid in front of the TV or the iPad because then I can go get my chores done. And it's a necessity. Like, I'm not judging parents who have to do that right now, but the focus is on the parent and what the parent needs, and not on the child and what the child may need. And again, I think it has to be both. It has to be, you're shifting that attention. But I'm also wondering, with what you're, the stream metaphor leading to the baby metaphor with the therapy, I'm wondering what those kinds of physical helps, like the way your brain will make connections or not based on what you can physically do for yourself, and how that plays out mentally and emotionally as well. Because again, I think there's so many different families that feel so many different ways about it. Like, I was terrified as a young parent that I was going to raise spoiled kids. And that was almost, I just, my lived experience at that point was, I valued work and struggle and being the underdog who could overcome, and being self-sufficient and independent. And like, worst case scenario for me was raise a spoiled kid. But then the realities of life are coming, and it's like, well, I can't purposefully set up difficulties for my child. That seems insane. Everybody is trying to get to a point in life where they can, well, not everybody. I certainly hope that I was trying to get to a point in life where I could make life better or smoother for my children, give them opportunities I didn't have, etc. It's like you want to spoil them in so many ways. And then that was just like a fear of mine. My wife, coming from a very different background, had no fear of spoiling them and was just like, it's just a different paradigm. It's where you put the attention. But what all of this was making me think about in terms of like nurtured heart, if we could make that transition more clear. Um, well, what we were talking about earlier was connecting very much to like video game, and then how he makes such a point of saying warnings are not nice, and warnings are not kind, warnings are just confusing. And I heard that very much in what we were talking about earlier. But then the other thing I'm thinking about is more touchy, and I have no answer, but it's kind of what I've been mulling over for the last little while, and it's where the line is, or how to distinguish or decipher between what is good nurtured heart practice and like going through the stands with fidelity, like this is where my energy will not go, I will not let it go, this is where I want that energy to flow, and this is why and where I'm clear. And we know that if we're listening to this, I hope. But how do you distinguish between that and just very basic manipulation, right? Like, and in the behavioral sorts of ways, like you do good, I reinforce that positively. You do bad, I, punish, or there's a negative consequence. And again, it's subtle. And I'm not trying to say that there's not a distinction. I'm just really trying to work out where and what that distinction is. I think especially when we're talking to new parents, I'm sure you hear this all the time, it's confusing. And I think that's why there's such a cry for consequence. And well, what do I do when they break the rule and they want something to do? They want a consequence. So I think my answer at this point is it lies somewhere in your intention. And I mean, even trying to get your child to eat more healthy is a form of manipulation, right? You're trying to get them to change their behavior to something that you already have in mind is the right end goal. Um, so again, I'm not going to say that's a horrible thing or anything, but it would kind of be the why. Like I do think even with something as simple as having your child eat more healthy, like why? Is it because you don't want your parents or friends to judge you? Or is it actually a care for your child's health or developing good eating habits and, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if that's too much. I don't know if we want to dive down there, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is even in simple ways to very big ways. Um, how can we help people understand the difference between what we're talking about often in the nurtured heart approach and manipulation? And then where those pitfalls lie when you miss that mark, because we all will from time to time.
So I don't know if you will hear what I hear, but I hear like drilling and stuff in the back, but in the background, I have workers in the house. But I muted myself before. You've taken this manipulation even further than I was thinking, Freddy. Because the kind of basic manipulation that I became aware of through my nurtured heart journey was that I was using nurtured heart as a way of just very basically manipulating behavior. Like here's, like rewarding, like if I'm only going to show up for my kids when they're doing what I want them to do and they need me, then they're kind of forced to do what I want them to do in order to get me. That's like ouchy manipulation. That's like so ouchy. Like they have to do, and like who am I? And like and how do I know? Even if I think that my values and my rules and what I want them to do is best for them, is every adult looking out for them? Is every person in the world gonna instruct them with clear, good, solid for them instruction? It's setting them up for being obedient and just doing what adults say. Is it doing that? And then they have no inner compass, and they have no inner, that connection to their own intuition, and that connection to their own value system, where they can hear someone say that they want them to do something and be like, that's not for me, and be able to say no, Or like, no, I want the world to show up for me, so I'm going to do what the world wants. It's like the same old paradigm we're working so hard to get away from. So that was like a huge epiphany for me. But I hear you saying more. I hear you saying like, or I don't know if this is what you're saying. I'm asking, but we're discussing. But this idea of like, can I even know what's right for someone else? Can I even have a value system for someone else? Can I even teach that this is right and this is wrong? Like, is that even something that, because if I can, then I can argue like the argument that any level of having any sort of expectation for anybody, is that manipulation in itself? Well, if I'm involved in their decision making at all, then it's going to be some form of manipulation, because I'm trying to manipulate this. Even if I'm just setting the stage for it, right? Like having healthy food in my house, right? Not having junk food in my house. I could say that's manipulation. I'm manipulating. But so then it's like, well, okay, we can get into a whole thing with permissive parenting and this and that, like there's for sure different schools of thought. I can only say where I'm at today, and maybe next year I might be in a different place, and maybe people really disagree with me and I'm going to lose my audience now. That's fine.
I don't think so.
No, I just kind of, the way I see it is almost modeled after my religious background. So, and I feel it plays into nurtured heart, but we're all going to come with our own stuff, right? We're all going to come with our own kind of where we've been, what we've learned, and we're still going to be learning so much in our life. So I say this with humility of knowing that I don't know everything. But like, I think that the way the stands work for me is the structure, if I can get to the essence, and I think the essence is the answer to your question, but let's get there in a second. Is that stand 3, the setup of the video game. It's like when you're in a video game, that universe, whatever that universe is set up already. You don't get to choose how that universe works. Like you don't get to choose if the turtle is your friend or your enemy, right? And if you're gonna hit the turtle, if you're gonna like, wait, turtles are sweet, why are they getting me out? We shouldn't have turtles be the enemy. Like turtles should be our friends. Like I'm gonna go do I'm gonna go, what's the word when we protest? I'm going to make a protest against Mario that the turtles are the enemies. Like, that's not fair. We have to save the turtles, right? So it's like the video game doesn't really care for your opinion on how it should work. Play it or don't play it. This is how it works. I think like my way that I make sense of it for me is like I have my values. I have what I believe in. I do. I have what I think is what we need as we need, not personally in the moment, like do you need to eat or sleep? I can't tell you what your body needs in this moment, but general values and morals and systems and what our world needs and what we need as people, and what I want for my kids, like what my hope is for them, based on what I believe in. My universe in my home, and my systems in my home, and my rules in my home are going to be based on that. And it is my home, and they live in my home. And they are, they have a certain dependence on me that also makes them need to respect my home, because yes, whether they didn't ask for it to be born, but there's, I always tell my kids, it's hard to be a kid because ultimately you depend on adults for things, which means you need to follow the adults' rules about those things, because you don't have your own car and you can't just, but on the other hand, like, think about it. You don't have to do anything for yourself. You don't have to worry about where the money's coming from. You don't have to worry about the food. You have your clothes bought for you. Like, everything's taken care of. So enjoy that part, and one day you'll have your own house, and I'm not going to be able to tell you what the rules are. And when I come to your house and your rules are you're only allowed to eat sugary cereal for breakfast upside down on the couch, like, I'm not going to be allowed to eat breakfast in your house unless I'm sitting upside down and eating sugary cereal. And if I don't like that, I'm going to have to not visit you. And that's my choice. I could not visit you, but like, if I'm visiting you, it's going to be upside down on the couch eating sugary cereal. And my kids actually love that. And we have funny conversations whenever they don't like my rules. We have fun conversations about like what their rules going to be and what are they going to do. And they're cute. And they'll talk about how, well, I don't think I'm going to let my kids have sugary cereal like for breakfast, but like, I'm going to have it be like, we have all these conversations and,
right. Yeah.
But hey, but listen, this is my house, and I do have values, and I do have a right to my environment, to build my environment to be the way it is. And I do as because yes, I'm coming. So the hope is that I'm coming from an intentional place, from an honest place of these are my values and I believe in them for a reason. That I'm raising my kids in this universe, right? In this video game universe where this is how it's set up. And I'm setting the stage for them to see the beauty in that and appreciate it. And I'm being as explanatory as I can be and being a role model of everything I believe in. But I think the stand one and stand two that comes into play is that the play it or don't play it. It's really okay for them. If it's really okay, what the problem with this is if it's not okay for them not to play. If I'm like, this is the game and you have to play. And if you don't play, I'm coming after you. Or I'm not coming after you. You're out. Ignore, right? Like the not stand one, the ignore version. Like, well, that's it. You're out.
There's a couple things. One is my experience with Nurtured Heart is definitely more with older teens and then adults. So I think that changes what we're talking about, but not at the heart of it. Then the other thing is that I think you said so well with the video game, especially, is it's the lack of judgment and the lack of punishment. It's that punitive nature that gets into us. And I don't know if it's, societal or cultural or how it sneaks in there, but we all, even when we think we've worked on it a ton, have this punitive nature. Like they did this thing and therefore they need to have this, that is just ingrained in us somehow. I've questioned that many times. I don't think it does any good. But that's for people to decide. So the video game doesn't judge, right? Like you still have your controller and you can still run around and do whatever you want to do. And there's going to be consequences. Like you go over there, you fall off the cliff, you're out of a life. But it doesn't think you're a bad player. It doesn't hold it against you the next time. And so that's where I think we need to do better with the energy and the judgment. Because again, even this is where I say they're connected, then I want to talk more about the older people with this particular what we're talking about. But the video game doesn't have what it wants you to do, right? Like it doesn't care if you advance to the next level or not. And although I don't want to say we don't care, because we care deeply about our friends and family and hopefully everybody, and we want certain things, like you were saying, our values and our beliefs, and that's all fine. But like where we started, they have to get there for themselves. And even if your children, again, mine are in their early 20s now, and the painful reality is all kinds of hopes and dreams that my wife and I created in our heads about who they would be and how they would be and what life would be like. Like they don't have those dreams. And in many cases, this is my transition because I think this is the beauty of it. In many ways, their dreams are way bigger and better than what me and my wife were dreaming of. Like we didn't know what they know. We didn't live in the world that they lived in. We're not going to live in the world that they will be living in, which leads me back to the manipulation pit. Like, I don't know if I've taken it deeper than where you are. Like, I think I'm still at the same sort of place. The eating healthy food, like to me, that's like running around a track or a treadmill, depending on what you're doing. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. There is no like travel benefit to it, but you just do it because it's exercise. I feel like these conversations are like that for me. I'm not going to delve down the rabbit hole and like rethink every single thing in my life because, oh my God, is it manipulation or not? No, it's just an exercise where we can really, flex a little bit, test, stretch, see what's going on. Like, where is manipulation sneaking into my work? So again, don't like freak out and, rethink everything. But like, I'm thinking of my wife. Definitely when I ask her a question or start trying to recognize her because I want her to do something or not do something. And I'm even choosing the recognitions I give her and the greatnesses I'm seeing in her for my own purposes, right? Like I think she needs to stand up for herself more. So I find these ways to say, look at you. I really like the way you held your ground there. You are the greatness of knowing what you need and taking up your own space, Or I think she needs to, well, whatever. I don't want to waste more time with the hypotheticals. I think people get it. So it's great. And that probably is a good thing for her. And she probably does need to hear that she has the greatness of sticking up for herself, but not because I want her to stick up for herself. Then it's not an authentic recognition of a greatness I'm seeing in the moment. I think this is the authenticity piece, and this is the reality of the moment piece. This is where I'm going with the zoom and the focus. Like, I'm focused on this because I want it for her. So now I am recognizing it in her. That again, maybe it works for you guys. It's an exercise for me right now. I'm not trying to say what is, but I notice in my time kind of testing this theory, like, it doesn't land for her well. And oftentimes she feels exactly what the energy is, like, before I do. And then I have to read her face or her body reaction to be like, oh, what just happened? Oh, yeah, well, I have a place I'm trying to get her to go, and that doesn't feel right. And so I think, again, middle school, high school age kids are transitioning from that dependent child you're talking about to the adult. But as a lifelong teacher, I always like to begin with the end in mind, right? So if I want them to be responsible, independent human beings who can make decisions for value, in our lingo, they have great inner will. I have to start that early on. And I'm going to treat my 2 year old not like just a 2 year old, and certainly not like a little adult either, but as a future 18-year-old, right? I'm going to treat my 10-year-old as a future 20-year-old. And even those little things that I'm seeding early on, like, again, this is my point here. Like, what I want in a neighbor, partner, colleague, friend, adult, fellow citizen who gets to make decisions about how the world is going to be in our country, like, those are the exact same traits that really aggravate me in a 13 to 14-year-old,
Mm.
right? When they think for themselves, when they ask, why are you telling me to do that? I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I hear the authority telling me to do it, but maybe I should think before I just jump in and do it. Like, the exact same things we want from our responsible adult people in our lives. So anyways, I think you get it. That's where I'm wanting to push on how that works, but not to make anybody second guess anything or to pretend we have the answer, but just by thinking about it, I think it deepens our practice.
Okay, you have given me clarity on what I want to say. I am the
Right.
greatness of
So
waiting till it's my turn.
I feel like I have no clarity on what I'm trying to say. So good.
Okay, well, maybe I'll give you some clarity with what I say. So, okay. And again, with the Zoom thing, I'm trying not to look at my face here and look at you. Okay. So, okay. So the back to what I was saying about the video game. I think the difference of manipulation lays in what part of parenting I'm doing. When I am rule setting and setting clarity, which is my responsibility as an adult to set clear expectations so that the kids know how to be successful and also know about the world. Like, they don't know that touching fire is going to burn them at 1, and at 15 they might not know the risks of certain, I don't know, maybe 12, sexual things and drugs and whatever it is that I need to educate them. Like, I need to teach them. I need to set clear boundaries because they haven't been there. They don't know. And like, yeah, they will be pregnant, like, it's not a joke. Like, we got to teach them. So in the clarity setting, I need to be, and I can only go by my own understanding. That's all I have. That's literally all I have. So like, I need to trust where I've come and where I've been, what I've learned, what I've grown, to set clarity on right and wrong for and rules for this kid in my system, in my world, in my home, in this school, in this city, in this country. There are speed limits, right? The right thing to do in the United States of America is to drive, within the speed range of either the cars next to you or the speed limit. Like, that is the rule. And there are rules, and we don't live in a jungle. So like, to be so clear about like, yay, nay, like that, this is where the line is. Like, no, you don't walk over to someone and like, sock them in the stomach in the park. Like, and I'm being really clear about that. That's not okay. The difference of manipulation is like, now what do I do? That's setting clarity. What am I going to do in the actual living of life and in response to behavior? That is a completely different thing. what your choice is going to be and how I'm going to respond to that is you are a free individual. You have the right of freedom. We live in a free world that we are fighting for, that we don't want to give up. And that applies to my 2-year-old. You choose to not do the right thing, and to do the wrong thing does not change who you are as a being of greatness, and
Yes.
is okay, because it is okay to make mistakes. Not only is it okay to make mistakes, it is imperative that you make mistakes so that you experience the rowing of the boat, and you experience the consequences, and you can choose for yourself, and you can learn what things feel like, and you can learn what's right for you. Like, you need to experience the consequence. Someone said such a brilliant line about kids who are obsessed with winning. He said, you don't want to lose the game, but in refusing to lose the game, you might lose your friends. So you got to choose, like, and maybe it's a balance. Maybe sometimes lose friends, sometimes lose the game, but there's a consequence to everything. And that's cool. If you don't ever want to lose the game, just know what's going to happen. Right. And feel how that feels to lose your friends. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't really value friends. Okay. That's something you're going to learn about yourself, I don't need to make sure that what's my job is to set the clarity. What's not my job is to make sure that they choose correctly, because choosing, the definition of choosing is that there's a choice, which means there isn't a correctly, which means that they have to be able to make both choices and learn for themselves. And I'm supporting them in their journey of making both right and wrong choices, in the brilliance of what that says about them. That says that they're independent thinkers, that they're critical thinkers, that they're getting life experience at such a young age, that they're figuring out what's right for them. And so I'm always clear on what the rules are. This is right and this is wrong. This is okay, this is not okay. But in response to behavior, I'm always supportive. And so that's the one thing I had to say. And then in support of what you were saying about your wife, I shared this on the Nurtured Heart Institute video that I did for them. One of the ones, I don't know which title it was, I did too. The story of my son with his shoes, that he was 4, I think, at the time. And so this applies to little kids. This isn't only about your wife. I was so manipulative. Now I can say that, but in the moment, I really needed him to go to school. He really didn't want to go to school, and he had to get, he finally got his shoes on. He was like, I'm not going, whatever. And he finally got his shoes on. And I showed up for that moment with all the bells and whistles. Like, you did it. Look at you. You got your shoes on. You're ready to go. You're showing me that you are, so independent and cooperative and blah, 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 blah. He blew it at me. He was so angry. And his reaction was like the perfect reset. Like, there was no way I could pretend that went well. He was so hurt and angry. And I got him to school. But then when I was resetting throughout the day and kind of thinking about it, I was like, that was so, if anything, it was like, it was minimizing of his experience. It was patronizing. It was mean, because it was all about my agenda. You don't want to go to school? Well, that doesn't matter, because I'm the mommy and I want you to go to school. So, you got your shoes on, you're going to school. I was laughing in his face that he was forced to do what I have to do. That's not the greatness. Has to be what's their greatness in the moment. What will resonate with their experience, because it's actually what's happening for them. Like, the greatness in that moment was that he can handle being in a really, really, really hard situation where someone's telling him to do something he doesn't want to do. Like, having to do something you don't want to do, being controlled. Like, there are times when we're controlled in the world. I mean, you're put in handcuffs, you're being controlled, and that's not pleasant. Or I mean, even being in traffic, you're being in control because there's cars in front of you. You can't drive. That's very frustrating. That's he was in a situation where I was basically forcing him to go to school. And that's what I needed to do that day. I couldn't keep him home. That was my clarity, right? He needed to go to school. And that's a really hard, and I had no empathy. I had no empathy for that experience. And the greatness was all about what I wanted to see. I wanted him to just get his shoes on and go to school. It was all about me. And so when he came home, I actually shared with him, I said, about this morning, I was thinking about it and I realized, like, whatever. And I don't remember what I said, but it landed. It was like some sort of recognition about being able to handle hard things. I'm like, that's what it was.
Which still would get you to what you needed, which is him going to school. Like, that's the confusing part, because that's the clarity that does need to happen, and you make that happen. but you could have recognized that. I mean, it's also great that you were able to do it, when he got home. You could have done it the next day, you could have done it a week later. Like, that's an amazing thing for parents to just realize. Doesn't always have to be in the moment. Sometimes, especially if you can do it the next day or even a couple days, it makes more impact. Again, not all the time, but sometimes, because they're like, oh my gosh, they really did notice and see that, and it actually has impact. But you could have been authentically recognizing the real strength you were seeing in the moment, which is what you were able to, reflect on in the day, which is handling difficult things. Or, I know you really don't want to, but you're doing this for me, and I see how much you care about helping the household work or helping mommy's day go better. And I really appreciate how kind you're. I mean, there's a billion things that were different than, look at you doing what you're told. That's your greatness. You are doing what you're told, which is, that obviously his reaction. So some kids might like that. He didn't
Well,
in
I
that
think
day.
it depends. If that was
Right.
if his choice, I need to be able to attune to him. Because
Yep.
if in that moment his greatness is that he's doing what he's told, right? Like sometimes the greatness is I'm doing what I'm told. You know what,
Yep.
Freddie? I don't love this whole thing of, whatever you're asking me to do, but you know what? You're asking me to do it. I'm going to do it. Then my greatness is doing
Yep.
what I'm told.
Absolutely.
And if I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know about that, no, then my greatness is standing up for my values and saying no.
And then the other thing I wanted to say, I think I say this so much when people come out of CTI, because we do the whole basketball thing and, a toe on the line's a toe on the line. I always like to think of it as like a little reach in foul or something like that, or even traveling. Like, a player that's playing the game is going to commit fouls. They're going to have turnovers. If Michael Jordan tries to, I know it's Kobe Bryant or LeBron, I'm so old. If it was somebody nowadays, was doing something incredible and stepped out of bounds, and it's a turnover, nobody is going to say he's a bad player now. Oh my gosh, that turnover, that's ridiculous. He stinks. They're not thrilled. There's still a turnover, still the other team's ball. It may cost the game or a point or whatever, but no one is now saying he's a bad player. And that's what I think we really need to get about. And again, I don't even like calling them mistakes, because even in your traffic, like, rules are rules. And yeah, it's not okay to speed most of the time. But if you're rushing somebody to the hospital, if there's an ambulance behind you and you're trying to get out of the way, there are times. So what we want is, again, thinking people who can make rational, good decisions that they can defend, not just do blindly what they're told. So how do we set that up from the beginning? They have to be able to do the right thing or the wrong thing, whatever, again, that means in the situation. Um, sometimes I would foul. I'm thinking of myself, because this is what I used to tell my students. Sometimes I would foul somebody in a soccer game literally just to rest. I mean, obviously, I didn't want to hurt them or anything, but, like, the ref's going to come over, they're going to get up the free kick. You're going to get a solid 2 to 3 minutes to just get your breath back and rest. And sometimes that foul's worth it. I don't need the ref to come lecture me about how it's a foul or how I don't need to foul. I'm like, dude, the rules are simple. I fouled, blow your whistle, give them the free kick. All I'm trying to do is catch my breath right now.
Hmm.
And kids can make those choices too. In school, at home, in lots of places. Sometimes they want to break the rule. They know what the consequence is. They don't need a lecture. They don't need a pep talk. They don't need judgment about why they did it. They're very, very clear about why they did it. All they need you to do is enforce the rule the way you said you were going to enforce the rule. And then they made their choice. But it's not a judgment again, like, oh, you're a bad child because you broke this rule. Or, I don't love you anymore because you didn't do what I said. That's where it becomes manipulation, right? If you loved me, you would just follow my rules. If you were, and so anyways, last thing I just wanted to say in that stream is, so for me it's kind of like this. Again, it's a mental exercise, so don't take a lot of this too seriously, I hope, because I don't know what I'm saying. I know what I'm thinking, and I know what I want everybody to be trying to experience for themselves, but I'm not trying to have like a this is the answer moment. I don't even believe in that. But I'm thinking, what's the difference between persuasion? I don't know if you can see my fingers. So persuasion and manipulation, and then I guess at the extreme, it would be coercion. And so again, where do those things? So there's persuasion, and then there's manipulation, and then I think very extreme would be coercion. And again, I think people would do some good in their parenting, teaching, and just how they're relating to people, to really think where those lines are. and what actually distinguishes one from another. Because I think we cross lines a lot of times unintentionally or unaware. And then, we get the result. And if we're attuned people, which most of us in Nurtured Heart are pretty attuned to the energy and reading people, we get a reaction and we're like, where did that come from?
Mhm.
And I'm beginning to think that it's coming from some of these lines being blurred. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
I mean, I
thinking.
I don't remember who said this, but someone used the word inspired. I'm not going to be able to quote it, so I'll just move on. The even persuasion, ultimately, what I think Nurtured Heart stands for, and what like real education is to not even persuade, because then there's no awakening in them. There's no connection, like those connections we're talking about with the baby, learning to walk. There's no real connection to the value in it. They just gave in. They surrendered to your will. It's like, I surrender to your will. Oh God. It's yucky if you think of it
Yeah.
like that. But it's the idea of stand two, the idea of like making the connection of like, you did this. This is why it was great. And this is what it says about you. And these are the positive consequences that come with that. And let me spell that all out for you so that you can see the value of what you just did, so that you can see what you've contributed to the family and to the world, so that you can have that connection of your behavior, your action, your thoughts, your brilliance, your whatever, and radical. So it's like radical appreciation means for the things that I maybe didn't like that much and the things that I love, both of them have greatness, and to be able to spell that out and build those connections for them in those moments of here's what I just saw you do, and this is the why, and this is the how, and this is the when, and to have those connections, that's an inspiration that awakens their connection to the value. So it's like, I don't need to be persuaded. This is me. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. I don't need you. Like, why are you even convinced? Why? I don't need you to convince me. That's patronizing. What do you think I need convincing for? You think I don't have a brain? You think I don't get it? Like, this is my value. Like, my kids will sometimes do that if I give them recognitions that are like below their level, like over there. They're like, Ma, duh. my my neurodiverse son, he'll be like, of course, mommy, that's the rule. And I'll be like, of course, duh. Why did I even think otherwise? Like, duh, you know?
So
Um,
funny.
it's so cute and special, but like they don't need, when real education inspiring them to come to connecting with the values that are going to be their values, hopefully, forever, and who they really are, and what they contribute, and what their contribution does, and the consequences, again, positive, also the consequences of who they are in the world, how much value they bring in who they are. That is like, that's inner wealth. That's that strength of character of like, I am all of this, and I'm going to show up, and I need to show up, and I'm such a, like, I can't, the bullies and the voices and the pressure from outside, it's like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I know my worth. I don't need anyone else to tell me. Like, and that's really what we're trying, that's what we do. That's nurtured heart, that nurturing of the heart on that level. So it's not persuasion, it's inspiring, and the only way it can be inspiring, well, no, not the only way it can be inspiring, but the for that investment in the future, that willingness to invest in this child's future means that I'm dropping things in the now. I'm not making a whole lot of connection around the things that they're not even proud of, like in their worst moments. I'm just building that connection for them of who they really are, and what they really bring, and what that says about them. And what I wanted to say one more thing, but you reminded me what we talked about in the last conversation. We brought this crazy example, maybe not so crazy, of a kid coming with a bat smashing the front window of a
Oh my
car.
gosh, yeah.
If I'm invested in investing in seeing the worth of this human and the beauty of this human, and reflecting that to them, so that they can have connection to their own, that connection to their own beauty, and so that the connection is never cut off or smothered or anything, the risk or the challenge is, how far can I go to be able to see the truth of their greatness? Because the fact is that there's truth of greatness in everything, even if the consequences mean that, you know, like we talk about with safety, like we are going to tackle the kid, we are going to, you know, put them in a safety room, we're going to, like, we are going to take serious action to make sure everyone around us is safe. Like there's things we will do, but the relationship and the heart, what I'm expressing to this child, and it has to be from, hopefully I'm able to feel it somehow, is the idea that, like, this action is taking this bat and smashing the window. What does that really say about who they are? They are breaking free of something. They are expressing a truth, that they are putting their hands up against the world and saying, I matter, and stop trying to control me, or whatever it is. And if we can get to the essence of what they're saying and the truth of what their voice is in this behavior, you know, that is beautiful. And that is greatness. Absolutely. That is the same greatness that's going to make them be the next Martin Luther King. Like that is the greatness that's there. And don't diminish it, because our world needs that. Our world needs someone that's
Yeah.
going to smash the glass wall. Like, you know, that's it. We need that.
What I loved about everything you just said is it was taking me full circle, right? Like the point is to see the greatness that is in each person in front of you and yourself. And it's there. So it's a trust, it's a scarcity versus abundance, it's a lot of things, right? I don't need to make it up. I don't need to generate some greatness that isn't there, because every greatness that can exist is in each of us. We just need to bring it out, develop it. Yeah, there's a lot of words there. But anyways, what I'm saying is it's the meta message again of what being seen means. And so I was just thinking about this. The meta message is like the message beyond the words, right? So I'm just simply saying, I see you really don't want to go to school this morning, but you're listening to me. You're putting your shoes on. I can tell you don't love it, but I really appreciate how much, you know, effort you're putting into just doing what it seems like you really don't want to do. Um, I'm seeing him in that moment. And that means beyond the words that he is important enough for me to see in that moment. And that's really important at like a big scale. If police officers could actually see the people they're stopping as people, if soldiers, if business people, if, you know, whoever, um, we want to be seen. And then so I had another thought, you know, experiment moment when you were talking. It's like, do you have any idea if Mother Teresa did what her parents wanted her to do? Did she follow the rules in the house when she was 7? I cannot say that I am an expert. I have no idea. But I do know I don't care. If she did or she didn't is inconsequential to who she is and what her greatnesses were. If we say something like Michelangelo, I was laughing when you were talking. Do we have any idea if Michelangelo ate healthy or not? Do we have any idea if he was an A student or not? Do we know if he could throw a ball or kick a ball well? Like I'm thinking of the families that like make these kids feel bad because they don't do well in school or they struggle in sports or whatever. Like that's all the made up hopes and dreams of your life. It's not seeing the person for who they are. And so again, that's where it gets interesting. I know this is long, but it's really important in my life right now because most of my friends have older teenagers to kids in their 20s. Like there's some real issues going on these days. Like kids are really questioning their identities in all kinds of ways, gender, sexuality, this, that. They want to get tattooed. They want to go drop out of school and you know help people somewhere. They want to, you know, be the go-getters with straight A's and get a big corporate job. And they fluctuate back and forth, you know, like all of us do. And you know, we're humans, the parents. We've spent 18 years of our life now with hopes and dreams. They would go get married and have kids, and we'd have little grandbabies. And well, no, not maybe if they identify a different way or if they choose a different course for themselves. And that can be incredibly painful as the parent now has to rework the whole like next 30-year vision of their life and how it's going to be. Um, but again, I've seen parents who can't accept it and stayed stuck in this mental vision they had and literally ostracized the human being right in front of them that they're supposed to be loving. Um, so again, what we're talking about, I think, can get really big really quickly. And it's, are you actually loving, relating, seeing, valuing the person in front of you, or this image of what you think it's supposed to be? And then, of course, all of the things we say in Nurtured Heart can be directed at ourselves. Are we really valuing and seeing ourselves for who we are, or are we constantly judging ourselves against this thing we're supposed to be? Oh, well, I'm Freddy Mendoza. I'm supposed to be this way, or I can't say that I don't have answers. People, I need answers. I'm supposed to, blah, blah, blah. That's not who I am. That's not real. I can't hold myself up to some fake thing. Um, and I can't do that to other people either. So again, I think we're talking about something that it's so circular, because you could dive into just like freaking out about everything, but it all folds back to me to, are we actually valuing and seeing people in the moment for who they truly are? And if we can do that and say it out loud from the heart, that grows inner wealth in them and us. And as inner wealth is grown and expressed, then I truly believe that that's what leads all of us to be those more independent, sufficient people who feel better, do better, choose better by whatever standards we have. Not by my standards, but by whatever standards whoever it is has. So again, that's a long thing, but if we are truly seen, even when we truly see ourselves, it just fills us up. And sadly, I can count on just a couple hands how many times really important people in my life have seen me for who I truly am in the moment. Not just, oh, you're a good athlete. Oh, you're so articulate. I love the way you can blah, blah, blah. Like that is not what I need from you right now. I don't need you to see that. I need you to see things beyond that. And I wonder how many people have that. Even the things they're constantly being recognized for aren't the things they are needing. And so how can we attune ourselves? Like, again, I'm saying attune, like tuning in a radio dial almost. Like, how can we pick up the frequencies of what they need? And I think, again, it's to trust our hearts. But that was a lot. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. And I'm thinking the flip side of that, having only a few moments in our life that we were seeing. Somebody told me an exercise their therapist had them do, which is to write a list of the people that when they look into their childhood, they could see those people's eyes. It's a fascinating experiment, but she said she only had one or two people on that list. Like everyone was eyeless because like there was no eye contact. They just, she was never seen. But the flip side of that is like, we do remember the times that we were seen, and we remember them so vividly. And even if they were once or twice or three times, the amount of emotional nutrition we got from those few and sparse, moments really are with us in such a vibrant way that we don't forget them, and that we hold on to them, and they still feed us. And I think that that's an important message for us to remember too, is that even if 95% of my parenting, I'm in fight, flight, freeze, and I'm reactive, and I'm letting my kids know just just how much of a pain they're being and how unwanted they are just because I'm so stressed, and I'm running, and I can't, and it's not intentional. It's just, never underestimate that one moment. People say like, well, what if my spouse isn't into Nurtured Heart? I get these questions, or like, I can't, I'm so triggered most of the time, or whatever. And it's like, imagine you had neighbors where, I don't know, we have to kind of create a story that hopefully doesn't exist, but for whatever reason, there is no help available for this family where the children are completely neglected and abused. And there is no services. There's nobody to call. There's nothing you can do. So I'm just painting this picture for the point that I'm trying to bring out. So the kid is starving, and walking out without shoes, and you're like, why? I have a peanut butter. I can make them a peanut butter sandwich, right? Well, why should I give them a peanut butter sandwich? Is it really going to make a difference? They're still going to come home to the same empty nest. They're still going to be neglected. They're still going to be abused. They're still going to be alone. Like, I can't save their life. So, and I've tried, or whatever, nothing's going to work. So like what? So why smile at them? Why give them the peanut butter sandwich? Like, I'm not making any difference to this kid's life. One peanut butter sandwich, they're going to be starving again tomorrow. And it's like everybody would agree that that's crazy. Like, give the kid this peanut butter sandwich. Like, you know what that peanut butter sandwich can do for the rest of their life, and the eye contact you give them when you give them, and the smile, there's that, you know what that tells them? That is a new connection in their brain, that there is a different way of living, that there are people out there who have peanut butter sandwiches and who are willing to share them. And fight, little child, fight, and don't give up, because one day those people that gave you the peanut butter sandwich, you can be one of them, and you can find them. They're there. Don't give up. You know, your world is not the only world that exists. Keep fighting, you know, and
Well,
it's just
because you're not
a peanut butter sandwich.
because you're not giving them a sandwich. You're giving them hope, and
Yes.
hope is the most important
Yes.
thing.
And if I can show my child once, twice, however many times, that I really love them in a way, and I see them and they mean the world to me, they're not going to forget that, even amid many, many moments where I show them the opposite. They're going to hold, I can tell you, you know, my parents were busy. We were 13 in my family. There was a lot going on. And I remember that one night that my mother sat just with me, not all my siblings, and I have no idea what was going on. I don't know if I was sick. I don't know. I don't remember, but I remember, I can see it so vividly. I can feel it. She sat next to my bed until I fell asleep. And that memory is something that I can always access. And if I just invite myself to remember it, the warmth that flows through my body, it's like, it's, don't underestimate, you know, we have to not focus, right? The Zoom, right? We have to not focus on the moments where we're not doing this. And remember that every single, you know, good thing lasts forever. It doesn't, you can't take it away.
Well, I think it's important to remember that this is a relationship. It's a relational approach. And what's fascinating to me about relationships, again, my experience is mostly with teenagers and parents, which are fraught relationships, even in the best of circumstances, is it's almost like having, a big bank account or something. I know Stephen Covey talks about an emotional bank account, and I think there's something in that with relationships. Like when the relationship is good and healthy and people are feeling seen and valued, you can make a lot of withdrawals. You're like, I just need you to sit down and shut up right now. That's not going to kill the relationship. Hopefully, you don't say it very often. Hopefully, for me, never in those words to a child. But if you did, it would be okay. They would be like, huh, that's weird. This must be something serious. He doesn't talk like that very often. Whereas if there's nothing in the account, if the balance is already dry, like literally this is where teenagers are half the time, like you just say good morning and they're, off the handle screaming and frustrated. And that's because you tried to make a withdrawal when the bank account was empty. So I think again, all of these things that we're talking about, like the parent who's like, well, I need a stand three. What's the consequence? I'm trying to do stand one and they're not listening. Like, well, there's no relationship yet. You need to slow down because again, it's not manipulative. There's no shortcuts. There's no like magic pill. What Nurtured Heart is so good at is describing how to build a good, healthy relationship that is full of trust.
Mm.
And then once that is there, then all of a sudden, when you turn away your energy with your stand one, it matters. Then all of a sudden, when you lean in with all the joys of your stand two, it matters. There's more. I liked your inspiration. It's not persuasion or anything, it's inspiration. I felt the word magnetic. Like if I'm living my life and being full of joy and recognizing you for living your life, there's going to be a draw to come live like me, be like me. If you want your children to value some of the things you value, there has to be a magnetic pull to it. Maybe it's just simply like we're going to have family dinner twice a week and we're going to have no phones and we're going to have a great conversation and no one's going to be rushing off to homework because this family conversation is more important than homework. That might be the thing. But if it's always a punishment and it's always like a tug of war and a fight to get them there, of course they're going to bail from. I mean, what you've done now is probably made family dinner something that will never be in their future. And that's where I think, again, it's the magnetic pull. If we can make those family dinners something that are nourishing to them, something that they enjoy seeing and witnessing and being a part of, then we don't even have to make the rule. Then they'll want those family dinners to happen. And family dinner is just a thing. It could be anything. So I like that magnetic pull.
And the
That's
crazy part is that the prerequisite to that is not needing them to be there.
right? Because they could
The
choose
prerequisite
otherwise.
to that is not needing them to be pulled. If I'm sitting there waiting for the magnetic pull to work, and I'm like, it's not working, they're not coming. And so I amp it up. Let's have an even better meal. Let's tell jokes. Oh, they're not coming. Oh, they're not coming. That's not magnetic at all. That's not magnetic
That's
at all. It's like
that's not going to draw anybody in.
Josh talks about the playground, how like the playground is my stand 3, and like I'm in this playground and you want to go play there, I'm not coming with you. I'm here. This is my playground. In order for that to be beautiful, I need to be okay with you playing in your own playground. I need to not judge you. I can miss you. Missing is a beautiful emotion, but I need to not be resentful. Like imagine, you're in your playground and I'm shouting at you, why are you going to your playground? You should be here. My playground's way more fun. You know how much power they have? Think about
It
kids and
doesn't
if
sound, and
kids,
it doesn't sound fun.
no, and
I'm looking at your face right now. It didn't sound fun over there
and
in that
even
playground.
sitting at the edge of the sandbox and being like, like nobody likes me. It's like I don't want to deal with that. I just don't. And if I sit there waiting and waiting, when are they going to come back? Looking at my clock, are they coming back? Are they coming back? Are they coming back? When are they coming? I'm not going to be happy to see them. I'm going to be so wasted away and exhausted from waiting. I'm going to be resentful when they show up. I'm going to be like, finally, you come. Fine, let's go play. You wasted so much time. Why? I don't want to be
Yeah.
part of that. I just don't want
It's
to be
the
part of that.
energetic magnetism, and it has to be authentic. Again, I mean, I'm a almost 50, and I laugh. My conversations with my father at this point usually involve 5 to 10 minutes in any phone call with, "You haven't called me." Like I'm literally calling you now. Are we really going to talk about how I never
Oh my
call you? Like
gosh.
I, and I'm sure I'm going to be that way at some point. I tease my children all the time. Like, do you see how I'm still listening to him and calling him, and I'm not judging this? Like, please do this for me when I get to that stage. But it's ironic, right? Because again, the magnetic pull, like if we were just having great conversations, which again, if my father were ever to see this, we do have great conversations often. But if it lost that 5 minutes of like guilt trip, I would probably want to call him so much more often. Whereas I got to say, at the end of a busy day, I'm stressed out. I only have 15 minutes. I pick up the phone and I'm like, I only have 15 minutes and I just really don't want to hear 10 minutes of why haven't you called me?
Yes.
Anyways, that's probably more than I should have shared about that particular relationship, but it's more enigmatic of bigger things. I think, again, if you're having fun on your playground and enjoying your time there and enjoying that your friends are on their playgrounds,
Yeah.
that will draw people to you.
Because
If you're
people love
sitting
to
there
show up if they don't
resentful or
have to.
angry or whatever, right? If you're doing any of those things you described and by the way, improv very nicely,
Thank you.
then that is not going to draw anybody, right? And then the proof is in the pudding often. That's what I hate about when you're dealing with the teenage parents who are like, well, I'm doing this and this is, and I'm like, well, is it working? No, but I'm doing, I felt like a soccer coach one time said, it was so funny because I was the coach in this instance, but a player comes and they keep missing their shot the same way. Like whatever they were doing, the shot was going up and fading to the right. And I'm like, okay, you need to do this. And they're like, but that's not how I do it. Like, but how you do it is making the right. And I feel like that was just such an obvious example, but I hear that from parents all the time. Well, I have this fight every morning. Okay, well, I think you should do this. Well, that's not how we do it. I'm aware that's not how you do it because how you do it is why you're talking to me. It's not working. So it's that magnetic thing again. Sometimes the proof is in the pudding, but it's also again, I'm making jokes, but it's why we sometimes need to hit rock bottom or like be aware of how bad it is before we're willing to listen or try or change because patterns are
Yeah.
are sticky, man. We get stuck.
The
So
shoulds. They're
yeah,
they're very they're very shitty. Um there's something I wanted to say. Oh, come on. Yes, okay. So especially with our intense kids, the big movers and shakers of the world, they're born with independence. They're independent souls and spirits, and they aren't here to be controlled and managed. And it's the very control and management that they are resisting. They are not resisting our rules. They are not resisting our values. They are not resisting our relationship. They are resisting anything in the world telling them what to do. And it's the very permission to not listen that is going to invite them to the party. because they are not going to come to a party that they have to come to. Just because they are here in this world to teach us all and to bring to the world that we are not in charge of anybody else. Like that is their purpose, is like to come here to this world and say, stop trying to control people. Like, and from when they're babies, they're like, you want me to eat the broccoli? Nope, I'm not gonna. I have, let's see how I'm gonna phrase this. There is a little girl that I know that said that she was going to not do, she wanted to do what the teacher wanted her to do because she cared about it, but she didn't, but the teacher was like forcing her to. So she said, I'm gonna do it when the teacher's not looking, so the teacher doesn't know that I did it. So she's going to do the good thing because she's a kid who values the good thing, but not when the teacher sees, because she's not going to be controlled. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. So it's like, but they feel our energy. So we can't be at it. We can't like say, oh, you could do whatever you want. And in our hearts be like, nope, you got to do this, because they feel that. So it's like, sweetheart, you know what's best for you. You come to the dinner table or you don't come to the dinner. I want you there. Oh, do I want you there? When you're there, it's a totally different meal. It's so much more enjoyable for everybody. You bring so much to the table. But if you can't come, like that's your call, baby. I can't tell you what I can't tell you what's right for you. And we're at the table and we really mean it. And we're just enjoying I enjoy what's there. I always say, like, it's like if my kid's in reset, right? If like they're out there. And again, the reset is like, of course you can be in reset as long as you need. I don't want anyone telling me I need a reset any faster than I can. Like, take your time, right? And you're in your playground. No worries. It's a gift to me that I get some extra time. It's like, if only me, imagine like, it's like, me and my husband and my kids aren't at the dinner table and we want them there, but they're not there. Okay. That's an opportunity for me and my husband to have a date, right? Look at it that way. Or my kids are all, it's an opportunity for me to get a few more dishes done, or to listen to my favorite music, or to have a dance party with myself, or to do some inner wealth breathing that always makes me feel better. Like it's turn inwards and find out what's in your playground, because whatever's there is a gift to you too. Enjoy the gift of what your life is.
And another gift that comes from that's like the gift that keeps on giving when you're just authentically real and allowing them to be. As they get older and they are sitting down to the dinner that they now wish to be at with you and your husband, you can say, I just can't be here tonight. And there's no judgment or pouting or freakiness because you gave them that space. They're going to probably, again, nothing's guaranteed, but they're going to be much more willing to give you your space. They're going to be much more willing when a friend is, choosing not to go to a party with them. They're not going to judge and take everything personally and freak out about what the relationship means and how. They're just going to be like, oh, they aren't ready to go to a party tonight. And again, there's so many more healthy patterns that will come from that. The simple choice of, you can come to the table or not come to the table, and we love you. And then it's sneaky, right? Because the way that I would do it as a parent, like even now when I'm trying to be good, I still screw it up constantly. Is I would do okay that day, and then the next day they would come to the table, and I'd be like, "Oh, so happy you chose to come to the table tonight," which again is a massive insult again to what they chose last night. So I'm proud of myself for, like, I was good last night. I valued their decision, and here I am
I made them
encouraging them,
come because I was so
right?
good.
And it just reads totally wrong. So again, it's sneaky. These things are sneaky how it hits you. I always get on Zoom calls now, right? Like, especially the work I'm doing on the reservation, there's connection issues, they don't like being filmed, there's a lot of issues. So we always say it's okay if you're not on camera. But then especially my mom, like it's such a thing for her to be face to face, and she's not, so she'll be like so extraordinarily grateful when someone turns on their camera. And it's like, again, it's a shaky message. Like, yes, you want to encourage them and build up their greatness for being brave enough or attuned enough, but then it's also insulting to everybody else then, right? Oh, so were they not brave? Were they
It's
not being willing? So it's hard.
I'm laughing at that example because that's literally me at every class that I give. I'm like, thank you so much to the people that are on camera. It's so nice to see you. And for those that aren't on camera, it's totally okay, because I know that you're the greatness of knowing what you need. But the people on camera, thank you so much, because I authentically appreciate it. It's so helpful to me, but
I
I don't
think
want
you
anyone
just
to feel shame. Ah.
Right. No, I just make it into I statements. I mean, I have the same struggle, but I just thank them. Like, I'm a teacher. I feed off people's energy. I am thanking you because I'm so appreciative that if you are willing and able, that you can be on camera because it just makes me better. So,
Yeah,
but if
yeah,
you can't, that is a wholly my issue. It will still be good, but
yes.
I just try to make it about that, but it's so hard.
Yeah, I totally like make it about the class. It's like I'm saying about like I do better. Like you are giving a gift to this entire class by being on camera because I am going to be a better teacher, and so this the quality of this class has just gone up because you're on camera. But like, yeah, when I'm on a meeting, do I want to be on camera?
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. I always like to go the reverse. Like again, I'm in that age where this virtual stuff is like I'm not so removed from it, but it wasn't my childhood. But I love it. Like I want to know the reverse. Like if there's 50 people on a call and I need to go to the bathroom or I need to eat or I just want to get up and walk around or put my head down or whatever for a minute, I just go off camera. I'm still listening, I'm still involved, and I'm like, man, I would have been such a better student in high school if I could have magically done this in the classroom. If I could have just hit the camera off, like in live classroom settings where I'm still listening, I'm still engaged. I just need to go do this thing without my friends and the teacher and everybody judging me all to heck. So I think again, we always look at the downside of virtual life, and certainly there are things that miss incredibly about in person, but I also like to look at the upsides and think, ironically, like what would it mean to be able to mute people in a classroom as a teacher? What would it mean in a classroom if, you could turn your camera off and not be seen? Like it'd be amazing.
Literally, if I'm telling people that they have to be on camera, I'm just cutting my audience by like, fine, I just won't come. Like, it has enabled so many people to come because, yes, late at night after a long day, they can be in bed in pajamas and listen to class while they're falling asleep, and they get half of it at least. That's better than none. They would never come in person. Mind you, they're in a different continent, but they would never
Yeah.
come in person. It's just, it's too hard. And for me too, I get to just like, you know how much time I've saved? I'm with my family. The next second I close the door and I'm on
Yeah,
Zoom.
I went to a friend's house to have a conversation the other day and we started running late and he was like, I got 5 minutes till my next meeting. And I was like, oh man, we got to go. And he's like, no, we can have another cup of coffee or something. Like it's right there. I just need to walk to my tent. And I
You
was
have
like,
4 minutes and 59 seconds.
right. Like, isn't that crazy? Because I'm thinking again about like, you got to have jumped in the car, you got to drive, you got to park, you got to get to the meeting, you got to like take a couple minutes to collect your, like, nope,
Yeah,
not these days.
yeah.
These days, you just
That's
meeting to
how it was
meeting,
for me here when we started. I had a worker in this room and it was just like, okay, Freddie, let's just let him finish up. We'll just chat and then we'll press record when he's out.
which is amazing. So, yay. I love these talks. I feel like we could talk forever and ever.
Yes, we
I
probably
don't know if anybody will listen to an over hour long talk, but
could.
we'll schedule more of them so that it can keep happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is
I
wonderful. And thank you, Freddie. And it's this I'm actually going into my son's classroom. I'll close with this. I'm going into my son's classroom today to show a video on neurodiversity. And I was thinking about this, like it's such a joy to find someone like you, and there's kind of nothing like it because it's like there's this like mutual understanding of everything, and it's so fun. You could just have so much fun. It's so easy, but it's kind of like sugar or honey that's like easy to taste good. But then there's like that like well-cooked meal with like all these spices and bitter things that all together are just fantastic. The like hard work of getting to know someone who's absolutely not like you, and the awe and admiration and just like whoa epiphany of like your brain is just so cool because I so don't get it, and I can't even believe that it works like that. Like, how do you even think so organized? Like, or how do you even like, it's just so natural to you to be good at that or good at that, which is so different. Like the beauty of difference is also so fantastic. And so to be able to have the like ease of just chatting with you for over an hour and we can talk for another 10 hours is beautiful. And then there's the beauty of community where we're really like learning about new people and getting to know new people. That's just as fantastic in a different type of way. And it's just so exciting that we get to have both. So anyway, my final
It
thoughts.
is a joy and a gift. I said a couple times it's like exercise for me, and it's great because I think I've been saying this recently. Like human beings learn individually. Like I can't learn something for someone else, and no one else can learn anything for me. It's an absolutely individual act. but it's an absolutely, paradoxically, absolutely social event. Like I learn much better with people than I do, off by myself. So something like this, where we are together and we are certainly exercising, but it feels fun. Like talk about the magnetic pull. I would do this all day, every day with you if I could. So it's awesome. And thank you so much for making the time and space.
Yes. All right, Freddie. See you the next time. Bye, audience. So glad you got to see us, and we'll see you again.
Bye.